Hello, McBIC. Maybe it is morning, afternoon, evening for you. I have no idea when you're watching this, but my name is Pastor Cody, and it is really good to see you. I'm not seeing you, but good to be talking to you today. So I'm coming to you from my kitchen, and there's a reason for that. The first is I'm trying to make dinner, so I'm making like some sort of taco soup type thing for dinner, and I wanted to multitask. And the second is it actually has something to do with what I'm saying today. So I've got some ingredients, I've got some canned goods, some meat, some peppers we're gonna chop up. And I'm not gonna show you how to make this, I'm just gonna be making it as we talk. Okay, does that work? So, I wanted to talk today about the idea of where God's presence dwells. And this concept really I have to attribute to our youth intern, Josiah Truitt. He has been helping us do worship over our online virtual youth groups that we've been doing. And he led this song, When You Walk Into the Room, the other day, and maybe you're familiar with it, but the song basically, the verse goes, when you walk into the room, everything changes, and darkness starts to tremble at the light that you bring. And then it continues on to a chorus that says, we love you, we'll never stop, we can't live without you, Jesus. And the song basically talks about when God's presence is dwelling with us and we recognize God's presence is there, that things start to change. Sickness starts to vanish, hopeless situations cease to exist. And there's all these beautiful lyrics about what takes place when God walks into the room. Now, there's kind of two ways to look at this. It could be thinking about Jesus, who walked this earth, genuinely walking into a space, and what it must have been like when the person of Jesus walked into the space and started healing people. But the other, probably more frequently interpreted version is what happens when God's presence enters into our lives and when we recognize that he's there. And Josiah brought up this beautiful point. Whoops, don't put your metal lids into your soup, okay? Josiah brought up this beautiful point that we are in really weird rooms now when we're worshiping. So maybe you watch church or you worship in your living room now, which is different than in the sanctuary, FLC. Maybe you are worshiping in your bedroom. Maybe you're in your dining room and that's where you guys put the laptop to worship together as a family. I don't know what you're doing. Maybe you're in the kitchen doing a devotional. And this idea that no matter what room, physical room we are in, God's presence is there with us. And it was this beautiful truth that I just was like, Josiah, that is amazing, because if we can learn that God's presence is not just at church, okay, where we worship, that God's presence is not just, in our Sunday school classrooms or up in the youth center or wherever we normally meet with him, but God's presence is wherever we recognize he is, because he is everywhere with us. So when we recognize that he has entered into our rooms, it changes the game. And so that's why I'm in my kitchen today. I know it seems random, but that's why I'm in my kitchen, because even when you're in your kitchen, you're making dinner for your family and things are going crazy and maybe the kids are running amok or whatever, you can realize all right, the Lord's presence is literally here with me. The same that it could be if I was worshiping alongside all of my McBIC folks in the FLC. And so that's my challenge to you, is to just to see that each room, each space in your house, if you haven't already, to actually welcome him in and say, God, come have your way in my house, come have your way in my kitchen, come have your way in my new school room that my kids are using. I welcome you wherever, Lord. Scripturally, there's evidence to this. This isn't just me trying to make quarantine a thing. Scripturally, the Holy of Holies is where God's presence dwelt, all right? So in this place that was behind all these curtains and you had to go through all these layers, and only the holiest people could get into the Holy of Holies, okay, where God's presence dwelt. And then, as Sherry said in her devotional last week, when Jesus died on the cross, that curtain was torn in two, and all of a sudden, we had access to God's presence in a way that we didn't before. Okay? Jesus literally came to this earth to give us access to God's presence in human form. So the disciples had access to God's presence that was unprecedented. And then we read in Acts that the Holy Spirit came and lived inside of us. And so now all of a sudden we have even more access to the presence of God because it literally dwells within us when we say yes to Christ. At our retreat, the teenagers, when we went on the retreat, we had this idea of matryoshkas, and I couldn't find mine. I think it's in a jacket pocket somewhere. We had these little matryoshkas, which are Russian nesting dolls, and we had 3 of them. One was this size, one was this size, and then one was a little bitty baby. And the whole idea was that we are this middle-sized Russian nesting doll, and inside of us dwells the Holy Spirit when we invite him in. It lives there forever. It's in there. You can rattle it and it's in there. And then outside of us is the presence of God that surrounds us constantly and is with us all the time. And so basically my encouragement to you today, I know we've been in this for like 4 weeks now. My encouragement is that the presence of the Lord is with you. We need to recognize it. We need to say, all right, God, here I am in my kitchen. Like, I can just make this taco soup the way I always would and then go about my day. Or I can say, Lord, like, you're with me. You are always with me no matter what. I sense you here. Thank you. I'm going to pray with you. I'm going to speak with you. I'm going to let you kind of lead my life even as I make soup. If we can learn that lesson that he is not trapped inside of the McBIC building, he is not even trapped inside the community that we've developed at McBIC, that he lives within us and wants to be with us even if we're quarantined. And if we can learn that lesson, we are going to be mighty Christians, because we're not going to be stuck inside of our building. And that's going to be a really beautiful thing. I know that many of us are already living that way, and I just have been really inspired by that as a community. So thank you for teaching me that even as I've come to McBIC. But I'm getting a little long, so I'm going to close out today. Thank you for letting me be weird and just have a new space. I pray that this quarantine is showing you more about yourself. It's showing you more about the Lord, and that you can take time and be in his presence no matter what room of your house you are in. Because when he walks into the room, everything changes. Thanks, McBIC. See ya.